Hi there, everyone. Apologies for that. I don't know what's happened before. I had a poor connection, did the old classic reboot, and guess what? It is back working. I'm just going to need to sort out a couple of the slides. You just have to bear with me for a second, but hopefully that'll give time for people to scurry on through. What I do need to do is probably just repost this link in Discord. But we'll worry about that in a moment. Just bear with me a second whilst I sort some of this stuff out. Just need to do plan early, plan twice, and all that stuff. But hopefully it shouldn't affect us too much. Okay, so that's all working. That's fine. Nope. That's all good. I can close down there. We're getting there. Almost there. No idea if any of these charts are actually going to be okay. Right. Apologies, everyone there, for those that are slowly coming back in. Just classic, needed to reset the PC, and then the connection strength's fine again. So back in the room. Yeah, what I was trying to say before I realized the stream was there was just go back 4 hours, and actually the last 3 or 4 days we've seen some sort of kind of recovery. A lot of alts that we're interested in, particularly the likes of BitTensor, seen a fairly decent rise. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were at 309. We're even now sitting at 411. So it's over a 30% increase over the last 3 or 4 days. And the question needed to be asked, are we actually seeing some kind of recovery within the altcoin market? Okay, it's an Avenger call day, so price action decides to just do what it wants. And Bitcoin is down 2% at the moment. Other altcoins, whilst red or green, not as green as they were before, but there's some sort of hope within there. But the overall question that I really want to try and address today is just, when or how are we going to see some sort of recovery in alts? And I accept that I spoke about this at some length last week, but the reality of it is, vast majority of us in this group are not 100% BTCers. We have an altcoin portfolio, and so we might as well keep on trying to understand where we are with altcoins in a hope that we can try and manage our portfolios in the best possible way. So we're still going to try and discuss it. I welcome anybody's views on where they think Altseason is, why they think Altseason isn't following previous Altseasons, anything like that. And if you are having more troubles with the stream, obviously just drop it in the chat and I will be looking over far more than I usually do, although I do pretty good on it myself. Okay, let's just start having a look at some of the charts. Not too much news to go through either today. But if we look at the Bitcoin 3-day time frame at the moment, and let's see. For me, we did this last week, and this is where we sit. 3-day time frame. Okay, 3 hours to go on it. We just sat within this range. We're in the lower half of that range. I completely accept that. And it feels like the reality is we are probably going to look to retest 92.5, 93,000 before we see some sort of recovery. But for the last 2 and a bit months, this is the range that we've been working within. And yep, it's a 20 grand range. But, so this is not something we haven't experienced before. We've talked many times about what happened over the last summer. It feels different this time, and it hurts us more because alts aren't playing the same game. So when Bitcoin goes up, alts make some sort of rally, but when they drop, we really start to feel them bleeding hard. Thank you, everyone, for coming back in. And I don't know if it's even a different link. I just did a whole classic reset and fired it up. So yeah, we'll go through Bitcoin in more detail in a moment, but there it is on the 3-day chart. Having a look at some of the other ones. So market cap dominance, I might get a slap wrist for talking about dominance today, but we can't really discuss altcoins and Altseason without addressing Bitcoin dominance. People may consider it the elephant in the room, but it is crucial for Altseasons. And what we've seen right now, so that W formation from weeks ago playing out up to the north now. We had that huge spike last week, but that's quickly being eaten back down. And although, the sum of the last 3 days is a bit of a red candle. That's nothing that we haven't experienced before. And for me, for now, the Bitcoin dominance trend is still up. And so that's just where it goes. That's just how I see it. And that's how I'm sort of adapting my portfolio to try and fit within that. And we'll have a look at the portfolio breakdown a little bit later on. And we're going to go into Bitcoin dominance in much more detail later on. And then we've got total market cap, or total 3, so minus Bitcoin and USDT. And I posted this in Discord earlier. And for me, this white line, again, which has been on here a while, it was the neckline of this double top. We broke it. We're kind of in the process of maybe considering calling this a Kobo back off it. This has wicked up to this neckline beautifully today. It was today it did it. And then we started to see, as over the last 4 hours have progressed, we start to see the market tumble. This has come back down. And so we just need to monitor this because ultimately, again, if we're looking for an alt season, it's going to be this that tells us we're heading there. We need to see total market cap minus Bitcoin and Ethereum to rise to be considered into an alt season. So again, something that you just have to bear in mind. And then one that we've normally been pretty bearish about in the charts, this is not quite right, that should be about here, is BitTensor. Now we're going to go into BitTensor on the small times, but on the 3-day time frame, we can kind of see it. I'll just delete the blue line. That was just something I just put on my mobile phone. It just popped up here. That white line's the 2-year trend line. But we've sort of hit that bottom the last 4 days, and BitTensor over the weekend really has been doing sort of 7, 8, 9, 12% gains, and we've seen even today up to 440. Some good strength within it. But although it hasn't actually hit that line, it's come fairly close to it. We have started to see it pull back down. I've got a feeling if Bitcoin remains in the red and see what's going, it's going to drag BitTensor down. But you can't deny the strength at the moment. The only thing that really concerns me is that if we are going to see this candle close in the next 4 hours, a new one develop, we haven't made a new high yet in this downtrend. We continue to make lower lows at the same time. And so there's just some concern that we need to consider how we're going to deal with that going forward. We'll go through that a little bit later on. Quickly through the news, and as I said, it does need to be quick because I didn't really see any major news events over the last week that I thought, right, we should really talk about that. So I'm not really going to waste too much time on it. This article here is not going to change the price of Bitcoin today or tomorrow. It's something that we've actually spoken about quite a bit, but I think it's just in all of this bearish sentiment, and something that I'm going to get on to talk about a little bit later on, which I'm going to have to refresh those. There is only a limited amount of Bitcoin. We kind of all know that, obviously, but I don't think it really sits in our, consciousness, maybe in the subconscious, just how little Bitcoin there is out there. And, we're looking now at on-chain data, say 2.5 million Bitcoin are left on the exchanges, which is the lowest amount since 2022. And if we're going to see some of this incredibly bullish Bitcoin sentiment actually be realized, such as the Bitcoin Act and other sovereign states taking on Bitcoin, then that is a supply shock. There's a very small amount of Bitcoin that needs to be owned by the world or bought by the world. So there is big picture, plenty to be excited about. As I say, not really going to affect the price even over the next month. And this is something we talk about probably on a quarterly basis anyway. So hopefully we'll get a bit of a heads up, but it's something definitely to watch. I think last time we spoke about it was at 3 million, might have been 2.8, but it is coming down. So we need to bear that one in mind. And the other one that was quite interesting is Ethereum. Price action today may be saying something else, but I can't believe this, as Ethereum short positions surged 500% in the last few weeks, which is quite interesting because I know we've seen the likes of World Liberty Finance buying an awful lot of Ethereum. And there have been questions being saying, well, why is this? Why is the price sort of being restrained at this level if people are buying? And obviously there is smart money, you would suggest, hedge funds, smarter than in retail anyway, are still suggesting right now that they want to go short. They want to continue to be short on Ethereum. And I mentioned this one because when we're going to talk about Altseason, the old metric was always that Ethereum led the way. And if Ethereum is still going to lead the way, well, it doesn't look like the market really likes Ethereum right now. and they're shorting it. Arguments can always be made that, in the longer term, it's better to play the opposite of what everyone else is doing. But in the short term, I think this is just something we need to consider. Obviously, we've seen how the price is going, but I want to draw your attention later on to just how well, or underperforming, should I say, Ethereum's really done, and whether or not we seriously need to question. I mean, although it is number 2, it stands as the gateway into Altseason. So again, something to just touch on there. But we will run quickly through where I see things with Bitcoin, and most of you have seen this chart plenty of times by now, so there's not really too much to have to explain. The only thing I think of interest is this. Let's get this liquidity block here, which I've taken liquidation levels. That looks like it's been there for ages, but actually you can see repeatedly that this level has been hit. Why is it interesting? Well, it was actually only hit last week. It's 12-hour candles, remember. So last week it was taken out. But in the space of the last 6 days, everyone has decided that this is another good area. So this is obviously longs, okay? This is long liquidation levels. People have seen it being taken out and they've gone straight back in. And it's formed such a heavy block. I take these from the 3-month time frame. So for that to have formed, it shows just how many are in there. But history has shown us it's been here repeatedly. I mean, if you go back through previous streams, I've had this on here. I just grey it out each time. But it always seems to come back. And I just stand by that, market makers, they're just, what's going on here? This just seems like free money for them, because they know that, price is drawn this way anyway. They're going to take it that way. But retail seems very comfortable to long at this level. And so they're happy to just bring that price back down, move it back up. And it does move fairly decently out of this range, quite sharpish, actually, in most of the times it's hit, with the exception of the 20th of December. Each time it's gone into this, we've seen strong reactions out of it. Even last week, granted, it only lasted for a day. And so I feel like this is just like a moth to a flame, or flame to a moth. It's moth to a flame, isn't it? Yep. I just feel that price is now going to be drawn to this. We've also got the 1.168 just acting as a sort of another magnet to kind of bring that price down. We haven't quite hit it yet, but I would not be surprised over the next couple of candles if we not only enter this, but we probably wipe it out again. And the question then is going to be, well, where does that take us? We're going to be down potentially as low as 92,000. Is that the point which we bounce from and we have another attack at the upper level of this area, which I know there's the liquidity band at 107, but we've also been talking about that sort of 106 level, if you remember going back to the 3-day time frame. So sort of that 92 level that we've got here versus that 106. And that 92 level, can't find my chart now, is smack bang at the bottom of this one. So I just feel, betting man, we're all betting men and women in this this industry, that's where the sort of the low risk play seems to be. We're already almost there, and I just feel that that's going to be taken out next. We kind of need that 92. I mean, we want the 92 to hold from a close, obviously from a body close, but that 91,000 Gandalf level down here, because this 87 has been actually here for some time. We've never really seen the price getting taken down there, so that's just one that we really we need to see hold. We lose that, we're going to start having other conversations, but I don't really want to get drawn into that. That's a level that we've got to look to hold and support us going through. There's fib levels within there, there's everything else. But when I throw some EMAs, I don't normally put the EMAs on this, but when I do throw the EMAs on here, now we've talked about that liquidity level, you can kind of actually see as well, this is the 50 and the 20 on the 12 hours. And they're fairly close to each other. But as you can see, since last week, we just haven't really been able to get through it. And we've just given up. Well, given up's not the right word, but we finally decided that actually it's 2 week. We're going to move price quite significantly away. What I always say, with 4 hours to go, this candle could completely retrace. So we shouldn't really be counting it just yet. But it makes a picture that we haven't been able to break through that really since, well, here, end of January. And we've just never managed. It's always battered us back down. It's kind of given us that way. And much like what we've seen and talked about over Tau for the last few weeks, it's just lower high, not lower low, I suppose, as well. This one, if it closed right now, would be technically be just lower than that. But as I say, 4 hours to go. We'll have to wait and see on that one. This is now just obviously a clean chart. And I got off the call last week and I kind of worried. I was like, am I just too bearish? Is that it? You know, we're supposed to be in a bull market. Am I being too bearish? Am I being too sort of narrow-minded and short-sighted with where we are? And I don't think that is necessarily the case. I just try and talk about what I see. Long term, of course, we're in an uptrend. You know, it has been an uptrend with these areas of stability. We've seen that. And for most of us, we've been in the market, you know, since 2023, maybe even earlier. And so we've experienced that. But if I'm going to speak to everyone weekly, I'm going to say what I see within this. And for the last 2 weeks, yes, okay, we've hit the upper band of that level, but we've not really made a significant move towards it since then. We've been drawn back down. And I think perhaps just the experience that we had in this summer range around here has just made me sort of temper my excitement. Yes, I know that there will be some move. I believe there'll be some strong move at some stage, but until we get out of that range, I'm just going to play those 2 levels that have shown to be pretty strong, moving up and down. And I sort of drew, it was a rectangle boxes. They're obviously not on it now. They weren't lines, but I kind of drew sort of one here and one here. And I was having a look at sort of how many closes we've hit it, because it does look fairly weak. You know, you could say, well, we're hitting this bottom range quite a lot. So why are we going to lose it? But I would actually suggest that it's the opposite. Because whilst we are coming down into this range, look at how many more wicks there are at the lower level. I suggest that what this shows us, and I'll take these white lines off now, is that there's such interest in buying down at this level because the strength of the wicks whenever it gets down there. Whilst at the upper side, yeah, okay, there's the odd day which has a long wick, but most of the time, the body and the wicks close quite close to each other. So yes, there's obviously sell pressure at those levels because the price ends up going back down. But that battle seems to be far greater than just when we get down to 90,000, 91,000, very strong buy orders are moving it up. And I did the count a little bit earlier. I thought, well, what I'll do is if that's 106 level and this is 90 level at 98, I'd just put a line roughly there. And I thought I'd count how many bodies closed above and below. And it's ever so slightly in favor of slightly below the medium, but only by about 2 days worth of candle closes. So again, it just seems to be, as painful as this may feel because alts are doing something different to what Bitcoin is doing, you know, we just got to accept that there is a range. We're working within that range. And we got this fatigued over the last summer. Hopefully we battle hard and buy it. I think this has been one of the toughest bull markets. See, can't even get the words out correctly. Bull markets we've been in just because of, one, our expectations, but two, just what has kind of happened with Bitcoin versus altcoins has just made this one feel so much worse. But as I mentioned on the trading pub, you know, we're in the high 30s, low 40s in the fear and greed index, yet still at 95,000. And it's wild to think that, you know, 2 years ago, sitting at 25,000 and we were at 75 on the fear and greed index, or the greed side of it. And yet we're 3, nearly 4 times that price. And the fear is so much greater. Speaking of the fear and greed, so yes, on alternative me, it's at 47. On coin market cap, which I don't have up, it is, well, we'll just have a look. It is 37. So relatively close, but both of them under 30%. But again, you know, just trying to find some sort of optimism. Okay, we're down here. And this is hard to read. I get it. And it's hard for me to get the cursor to sit exactly where I want it. But you can kind of just see far right hand side, we've dipped below the 50 and so we're ranging from 44 to 47. But if I take you back 4 years, so if we go back to January, February 2021, so Bitcoin's just broken 40,000, it's on its way to 64,000. So look, you know, you can't see it down here because it says 78. But if you actually follow where my cursor is pointing, oh, I almost had it then. Almost had it. 22, we got down to 40 in January. In February, we actually got down to, you can't see it, but it was 38. down in February. So, we have been this low on the fear and greed in bull markets, in times in which we have seen things continue to rise. Difference then, those drops were short-lived, and we did have a genuine alt season during that period. Bitcoin dominance had broken its back, and we were seeing that alts were making rallies. Bitcoin was still making dollar value higher highs, but altcoins were rallying harder. That's different this time, and I think that's what's creating that fear, that sustained period of fear over the last few weeks, because we're not seeing our altcoins move, or most altcoins move, the way we've seen Bitcoin move in the past and altcoins move in the past. But canary in the coal mine, Bitcoin ETF, BlackRock's still buying. Yesterday was a down day, as most people sold, but as long as BlackRock is still buying, I'm still relatively happy with where I am. I sort of said to you, although it'll be lagging, if I start to see half of this chart red, as over the 3-week period, BlackRock has sold 14 days in a row or whatever, then I might have some concern. And we'll have a look at Ethereum, but we're going to touch on it later on. But after the initial interest last week, that's certainly dried up, with no purchases being made by anyone in the last 2 trading days. But actually in the last 4 trading days, we've actually only had $30 million worth. So not a huge amount being bought. And then let's just take a look at Bitcoin lower time frames. Then we'll have a look at some of the other stuff that we want to run through. So this is Bitcoin now on the 4-hour. And I feel like this conversation was exactly what we had last week on Tau, BitTensor. Because what I'm seeing here is exactly how I would trade things beforehand. So we've had some sort of topping pattern here. I think on the daily it does look more, or 12-hour looks more like a sort of an M formation. But you can kind of see some sort of move up, drop down, move back up, and then we've started to see it fall. But we can see that we're on this downtrend just from the way price action. I mean, the simplest version at the moment is just we're in this downtrend. I mean, these candles haven't closed. We don't know where it's going to go. But we're not seeing price reattack previous highs. And that's what I talked about last week with this price action here. We had, and get the raise going, it there. And each time we came back up, we just couldn't get close to where we previously was. I think after 4 attempts at this, 5 if you want to include this one, price just had to fall away. And the big thing for me was when we did see that M formation, the second side of it was lower. Okay. And it just showed that we didn't have the strength, and that move down was likely going to happen. And that's how that one's played out. But now we can just look at the EMAs. One of the other things that I sort of look at, and each time since that pushback down, yes, we've rallied back to the 50 EMA or the cloud, but we've been knocked down every time since. And it's just cannot seem to break and hold above it. Similarly, today, or yesterday, I suppose, we had that run up into the 50 EMA. We couldn't hold it, and we've come back down. What I would say is that we closed that last vector candle with 4-hour. 4-hour candle is a red vector candle. There's a good chance this does get recovered, because if you have a look at all these other vectors, they've all been recovered. With the exception of the one at 103. I think in 2 weeks' time, we'll probably say, yeah, that one's now finally been recovered. But with this one here, there's a good chance that actually we might see this sort of recovered in the next few hours. But if we do continue to move down, I do see it being recovered in the short term anyway. Then the other thing that we've been sort of working towards is this trend line down here. And okay, we did lose it in this big dip last Monday. It recovered again. So this is what happened overnight, if you remember. But it recovered quite quickly. But outside of this, everything's kind of moved back down there. So I'm just wondering if this is going to be sort of the next level, that low 94,000, just to sort of reclaim that, and then we get that bounce back. My only worry would be, and I'm not exactly going to get too excited, is until we actually, wherever it bounces, whether it bounces here or down on this trend line, we actually clear this 4-hour EMA, 50 EMA on the 4-hour, and can start to build above that. And there's still the 200 there, which we've seen has actually acted like the enforcer anyway on that one strong wick. So yeah, need to just work out where that's going to go. Let's just drop down the hourly, see if there's anything more it can really tell us. Just wait for the 50 to load through. So, I mean, look, there's a lot of vector candles here that can be quite easily recovered. The price action on the hourly, it's going to be even worse on the 50. It's been relatively choppy through the 50. You can see sort of the 20 and the 10 are kind of almost just intertwined with each other. Same with the 50. The only issue we have now is that actually the fingers are starting to spread out, and these are starting to align. But if we do see some move up, I think that chop's just going to sort of intertwine those. It gets messy. It's going to get harder to trade on the 1 hour time frames. If you are thinking about trades on lower time frames, you've just got to be conscious that actually this thing can move quite fast. So probably don't either go light or don't keep them open too long with where you want to go from it. What's this one about? Yeah. So someone sent me this in WhatsApp, and I think this is actually quite a valid point. I go back to, retail versus institutional, smart money versus dumb money. And Matt Hogan, he is the CIO, Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise. Bitwise are an ETF, so they're like the third or fourth largest holder for the Bitcoin ETF. So, let's at least give him a little bit of kudos. But he sort of hits the nail on the head here with there's an absolute massive disconnect between retail and professional sentiment in crypto right now. And this was the 7th. This is 4 days ago. Retail sentiment is the worst it's been for years, whilst professional investors are extraordinarily bullish. It's like having two completely separate worlds. And I go back to what I said earlier, with the limited amount of Bitcoin that is on exchanges, with just the companies or institutional investments or sovereign states, whatever, that have now suddenly shown a huge interest in Bitcoin. And you've got to understand that a lot of these have got big machines, big cogs in which need to move so that they can actually go and sort of take opportunity from this. But there does seem to be a huge positive bullish sentiment around, well, he says crypto, I'm going to say Bitcoin, if nothing else. Whereas retail, struggling. And it's the comment below that actually got me thinking, just like what Cheers Ditz had said there. Oops, it's gone. Here we go. Feels like it's because retail is holding a ton of altcoins and meme coins, etc., that are down bad. And that's probably going to hit the nail on the head. Most of retail are in this I'm laughing because I was like this to start off with, and through 3 cycles of this have been beaten down. But in to make the quick buck, into just be in for the shortest amount of possible time with the least amount of knowledge, and hit that 100x straight off the bat. And because altcoins haven't quite played get ball yet, they haven't done what they've done in previous cycles, we haven't learned from that. We're not willing to learn from that. We're struggling. So our sentiment, retail sentiment, is bad because our portfolios are not doing what they should be doing. Of course, there's outliers, and those that had the courage to buy Solana at $8 when everyone was, saying it was absolutely dead and it was FTX Ponzi and all that kind of stuff. They're laughing because, they are sitting on a 30x at the moment. But the vast majority of us, that's not where it is. And any gains that we have seen, we've done what we always do. And we've spot held those. And we've watched those gains, evaporate. Maybe not all the way, maybe not fully round tripped if you were lucky enough to be in early enough. But those of you that have been in crypto for 12 months or so, very likely that any altcoins you've held on to have probably round tripped. And even BitTensor, we started talking about that about 170, but I think most people will agree that in our community, we bought all the way from 170 up to 650. And so people's average buys is probably in around where the price is right now. And so we're not feeling the love that perhaps we would have done had we have just bought Bitcoin, continued to buy Bitcoin, and been an opportunity where we could be sitting in 3 to 6 times our portfolio. So there's definitely something about that, and there's something about the mindset of retail that because it happened last time, it's going to happen this time. And that may well be the case. I still preach that. I still preach that altcoins will have their day in the sun. But it's just been painful waiting for that to happen. And then the same person that sent me this previous post asked, what's that? Don't know. Asked me to have a look at a video that Ben Cohen did last week. I think it was last week, might have been a week or two ago, about alt seasons and about, when will we start to see alt season, what's holding it back, etc., etc. And I got to say, I do like the stuff that Ben puts out. I don't watch it all that often because I kind of feel like I know the message, and maybe I fall foul of his point of, because he's not telling me what I want to hear, I don't choose to watch it. But it did open my eyes in terms of where we are with alt seasons. And if we just, have a look, this is Bitcoin dominance from all the way back to beyond 2015. And simply put, from a visual representation, that there and that there, that's alt season, okay? All it is, and in that, well, all it is, let's just go back, all it is Bitcoin dominance losing its foothold on the market. And that generally creates alt season. Now, whilst Bitcoin is on the tear up, we're of course going to have individual altcoins that are still going to do well, aka Solana, some meme coins, etc. But as a whole, for alt season, and alt season as I remember it, is all alts rising. Okay, so for that to happen, we have to see, a cascading fall down from Bitcoin. And this has happened in the past, and we've been fine with it because we've accepted that in the 4-year cycle, this last year has seen the Bitcoin dominance falling away, and alt season's happening, that parabolic run, and then it resets. And it does it resets in sort of different phases, I suppose, whether it be it just sort of like stays par to the rest of the market, or it actually gains dominance against the rest of the market. But it's 1 year down, 3 years reset. 1 year down, 3 years reset. But the difference is this time is Bitcoin hasn't really reset, hasn't started to reset. And what we've actually seen is mini pullbacks, which have been mini alt seasons. And in that time, we have experienced some gains, particularly in meme coins. I think meme coins have had sort of like 2 days in the sun, 2 periods in the sun. There was like March 23, and then I think, late on last year, we also saw that end of quarter 3, beginning of quarter 4 kind of rise through. We saw the Trump rally, which really helped move altcoins back. But they've been short-lived, and Bitcoin has continued to drive up. And we've talked about reasons behind that, with the ETFs and with such a more global interest within Bitcoin. It's potentially changed the narrative as to how that one looks. Let me just get rid of those. But if I wanted to, no, that's, bear with me because I have to reset the chart. Okay, yeah, this is what I was just going to show you. So if I just overlay Bitcoin dominance on here, get on the weekly again. Hopefully you can see, let's just change the color because that's horrendous. Done. And all I'm trying to just sort of illustrate here, both logarithmic, so I'll just move that, is wrong one there. So these green boxes are the parabolic phases, the year of the alts. And you can kind of see in the 4-year cycle, that's when the dominance falls away. And that's what we were expecting to happen this year. Previous cycles, it's gone flat and then it's dropped, or it's just dropped immediately. This cycle, Bitcoin dominance has continued to rise. And that's what's worrying us, because we know if we're advocates of the 4-year cycle, there's only a finite amount of time we have for Bitcoin dominance to drop. The rate, the steepness at which it falls has been the same each time. So if we're again going by previous cycles causing that, then we're running out of time to see that mass effect. And we're already in February. Matter of fact, we're almost halfway through February. So halfway through Q1, and that previous chart, which is this one here, which I put up, I can't remember if it was the beginning of this year or the end of last year, and I was saying this is the others. So this is the total market cap excluding the top 10, so real altcoins here. And I was saying, look, that period between Q1, the 1st of January to the end of March, we see massive, oh, you can't see it there. We see massive rallies, really sharp rallies in altcoins, really sharp rallies in altcoins. This time, the complete opposite, falling away. And so we're sort of like running out of excuses as to why we should still be believing in the 4-year cycle. Just going on some of the things we've talked about in the past. And because it's not agreeing with what we've said, what we believe, whatever, it just adds to those layers of pain. Unfortunately, the pain continues. Because if I go back to portfolios, go onto a clean chart. If we go now have a look at ETH Bitcoin. So ETH versus Bitcoin, long been the guardian to Altseason. And we can kind of see that for whatever reason, Ethereum has just not done its job in terms of being the gateway to Altseason this time around. And a matter of fact, we look that spike last week took us down to a low that we hadn't seen and since January 2021. So a full 4-year cycle. That shouldn't be happening because at some stage in the 4 years we have 1 year of up. But Ethereum hasn't actually managed that. Yes, okay, we had the up, because when I'm talking about the beginning of January 2021, that was it, the move up. So I get it. But you see, the principle of we should have seen some start of turnaround, a bottoming pattern, and that hasn't quite happened. And what we've actually seen is Ethereum, back at the bottom of the bear market, so sort of like Q4, one Ethereum would cost you about 0.08 BTC, whereas now it's 0.27. Or to put it another way, because sometimes that's not work, you can't work that one out, and this is fresh from Ben's video, is if we invert the chart and we have a look at it here, back at the bottom of the bear, what are we looking at? One Bitcoin bought you about 12, 13 Ethereum. One Bitcoin now is buying you 36 Ethereum. And so the strength of Ethereum just hasn't increased. All that we've really seen is Bitcoin moving up against it. And we have a look at it in a even more simplistic view. Let's just go back 1 year. So if we bought Bitcoin a year ago, so year ago here, 48,000. So we'd have doubled our money. Okay, we'd doubled our money if we'd bought Bitcoin a year ago. If we'd bought Ethereum a year ago, where's Ethereum? Here we go. What? We've made 10%. And you could argue last week we'd actually lost money. So we've just round tripped it. Yes, okay, it's been up and it's been down, but we haven't really seen it move like we've seen Bitcoin move. And that's the thing that I think has really kind of affected the mentality. And that argument can be said across the rest of the market. Because if we had a look now at, sorry, I've got to reset all of these each time, so apologies. Yep, leave that. So if we have a look at total, so what we've done here is total 3 on the weekly. So this is total 3 minus USDT against Bitcoin. So again, this is the altcoin market, and all we've done for the past couple of years is just drop away. Yep, here's some of the mini alt seasons that we've seen, but generally we haven't really made too much of an impact on this. And the argument now is, well, where is it that we might turn around? And to previous cycles, it's happened quicker, but we've got down to this sort of level. I mean, it's 0.28, of course, that's just the ratio against 1 because of how we've divided this here. But we've you can't see it because my head's probably in the way. But down there, down here, down here, down there. Okay, broke for a little bit there. But, if you were just to say, right, okay, I need to find a level which I'm never going to look at again. I just need to choose somewhere where I think it's going to go to. Going on past history, which, hey, we're 4-year cycle belief, so we like to look at past history. That's where you're thinking it's probably going to end up going. So actually, versus BTC, there's probably further pain still to have. And the argument could be said that, when we get here, then we may have a reason to see that turn around. Now, Ben goes into sort of a more interesting view on, well, why has it happened quicker previously? And it's because degens gave up. That was his view, is, degens gave up earlier in the cycle, which then was able to, hit that level and turn things around. Whereas the likes of Pump Fun, the likes of meme coins, that degens have stuck around for a lot longer, trying to sort of grasp onto some sort of alt season within it. And so we haven't really seen that. But I have a sort of a different view. And this is something that I talked about in a cuddle, don't know when it was, September last year. So this is the slide here that we went through. It's on the S&P, but I talked about it, S&P and Bitcoin here. And for me, the real issue that we actually are facing at the moment is we have had an initial cut to the interest rates, but previous times, when you look back at the S&P in sort of more detail and how they've avoided and how we've seen the market move up, go back to this one here. Two things need to happen. One, interest rates don't just need to be dropping, they need to have finished dropping, bottomed out, wherever that level happens to be. And it's not always going to be zero. But the second thing is that quantitative tightening has to have ended, and we actually need to be in a period of quantitative easing. And those things haven't actually happened yet. And when you sort of overlay these on the chart, which again, I'm going to have to, you can kind of see, well, you know what we saw here, whether it is with Total 3 minus USDT, whether it is with Ethereum, in this period of quantitative tightening, we've seen that Bitcoin dominance has increased. So we haven't seen that alt season start. And it's actually when we see quantitative easing take place, so money supply going up, this red line going up, that we've actually started to see alt seasons springing into shape versus BTC. And right now, we're still in that downturn of quantitative tightening. I don't think these tweets are loaded. Oh, they have. Someone put this in chat. I think it was Adam put it in chat just before I went live. So I didn't really watch the Powell testimony because I couldn't really be bothered. But he came out and said, look, I'm not planning on using quantitative easing until we get to the rates being zero. Now, whether or not he's ever going to get down to zero, we'll have to wait and see. But, what we see here is that it's not like he's going to flick the trigger next week. This, to me, we're still at what, over 4%? 4.25, 4.5, I think. So it's still plenty of time to go. And at the moment, they're only predicting 2 rate drops this year, which will likely be, 0.25, maybe 0.5 each. So certainly doesn't seem that we're going to be there. So when do we have QE? Well, QE normally comes about, when we're in recession and we need to kickstart the economy. Well, he even went on, not that one. He even went on a little bit later on. I went and played the video clip, but Senator Kennedy was trying to offer him a compliment, asking him whether or not he'd had a soft landing or if we were going to have a hard landing in a recession. And Powell said that we're not in a recession. So, we only really want to use QE when recession takes place. Well, we're not in one, according to the chairman of the Fed. And he's not looking to tighten the money supply until we get to zero. So if we are to believe that actually alt seasons and big pushes and injection of liquidity into the market don't come until we see rate drops stop and flatten out, whatever level that may be, and also the money printers turned on, unfortunately, that may suggest that actually that's not going to happen immediately. And yes, we can hold on to the 4-year cycle, but we may be looking at a sort of a Q1, potentially even some of Q2, in which we're still in this range, alts are still going to bleed, and we're going to have to try and manage our expectations going through. And then, I accept that grey swans, black swan events may manifest themselves in which, the Fed changes its mind and we turn that money printer on. But just keep in the back of your head that history has shown us that without the money printer turned on and without interest rates settling at whatever they need to be at, we haven't seen a rally, a sustained move in any of the markets. And then we go to the altcoin index, and this is it. We're at 43 at the moment. And I remember us talking about this on the Trump pump, and we got up to 86. And I mentioned saying, I will come and have a look at some of the questions in a moment, I promise you, that, whenever we get above 75, we normally burn out very quickly and then look to reset. And it's probably likely that reset will take us down to Bitcoin season before we make that move back up. And we're already on that way back down. We were only managed to stay above 75 for about 4 days. So that alt season was very short-lived, and now we're starting to see it cool off. So we need to just be prepared to say, well, okay, if I am going to hold spot altcoins, don't be precious to them. Don't be precious to how you're going to have your holds. I've actually finally unstaked absolutely everything now, so I can be very quick with what it is that I want to do. I don't want to be tied up with anything. And for those of you that have been following in there, I have been, not every time successful, I have been trading my bit sensor because I've just been trying to take advantage of whenever it does move up under the general guise of, alt season seems to get punished. Sorry, alt seem to get punished. So if I see a rally, there's a high chance that if I can hold on to it for just a little bit, hold my nerve for a little bit, I'll be able to buy that in lower. And for the last few weeks, that's served me quite well. It didn't do me so well in sort of Q3 of last year, but it served me all right this time round. And that's how I'm just going to continue to play it. So are we ready for an alt season? For me, the data isn't suggesting that we necessarily are. I'm going to sound like Powell here and say I'll always be data driven. That's just how I kind of like to view things. But I'm just going to try and give an honest sort of a view from where it is. I'm not bearish on the market as a whole yet. There's other factors that are going to need to take place. Us losing the Bitcoin Gandalf line of 87,000 is going to be one of those. BlackRock selling is going to be another. Legislation coming in to potentially restrict crypto after we've been promised that it's going to be the opposite of that would be another factor. So yes, I have that stronger mentality, but what I'm starting to do is I don't think it's late for me to alter my portfolio and just try and take advantage of that. So, or certainly the strategy within it. So I bought Bitcoin. I've always been buying Bitcoin for the business, that, but I bought something personally because I just see that that's been able to hold its strength against altcoins, and I've just been trading. So when we look at the portfolio later, you'll see where that currently sits. Couple of quick questions, and then we'll do the ones in the chat first. We'll have a look at these, and then we'll get into some alt assessments. T8, so crypto one, let's have a look. Cheers Dick, but retail sentiment can change at a drop of a hat. That is never a truer statement said. But what I'd go back to just saying, Gordon Gekko, Warren Buffett, all of those, Gordon Gekko is bloody fictional, but you know what I mean in terms of, when people have that ultimate fear, 9 times out of 10, that is the time to buy. And I said this last week, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Buying in fear is always historically the best time to buy. Yeah, okay, an hour later, you may have been able to buy it cheaper. But 6 weeks later, 6 months later, they're the ones that turn out to be like, God damn it, I can't believe someone bought at that level. And so, we are in this fearful moment. Coin market cap at 37. Buying then, now, I think will stand well whenever things do shift through. And so I have been adding to altcoins as well as my Bitcoin portfolio over the last few weeks. Some of the times that I've bought, it's lower than the price is lower now than it was. But I'm not YOLOing in with everything. It's just small buys as and when. So crypto ones, but in regards to alt season for BTC dumps, with big money now holding Bitcoin in ETFs versus wallets and exchanges, how do you see this with affecting the rotation since they would to sell into cash to rotate? Well, I don't even think you need to worry about ETFs. I think we've got to a point now where most people who happen to have got a Bitcoin or several Bitcoin, or hell, even part of a Bitcoin, probably look to try and hold on to that one. I think it's its store of value has got to a point where they're quite happy to hold on to the Bitcoin. God, I sound like a noob. The Bitcoin, and look to try and find funds from other places. But yeah, big money recycling through. And you got to remember, institutions didn't have big money in the last cycle. So we still managed to get big money pumping through, private companies and also retail investments. They're just, they'll find a way. And when we start to see people leveraging credit cards, remortgaging their house, that's when we know the big money is moving in. But also that's an indication that we're getting a bit too hot. And it's all about trying to judge the temperature of when to jump out there. But I for those that say we're going to get to $12 trillion market cap, at the end of this cycle's 9 months away. That's $1 trillion a month, because we're only at 3 trillion now. Trillion, okay? Just, it's not a billion. This is 13 digits we're talking about here, and you're going to get 10 of them. So I don't know whether or not we're going to see that. I'd love to, but the reality is 6 is probably going to be a pretty big number, and so we just need to manage our expectations with where we think price can go. Hey, if I aim for 6 and we get 9, I'm not upset with that. I'll be delighted, but it's a lot of money that needs to come in. And if we're not getting quantitative easing straight away, and the economy looks all right, we've got CPI data tomorrow. It's currently at 2.9. They forecast it to be 2.9. I mean, unless we're getting some data that's suggesting that inflation's coming down, then what incentive do we really have for the Fed to sort of rush to take the rates down, rush to turn the money printers on? So yeah. But do you still think there's time for some smooth brain bullet points to play out and give it an alt season? Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, and black swans being the prime example. But what the hell is it? Just look how quickly this happened. I mean, you know what I'm going to point to. That sort of run up from, we knew about COVID on the rise sort of in late November, December into January. I remember in January, because I was worried about that virus from China stopping me from going to the Super Bowl in Miami. But the market still rallied hard. We dumped incredibly hard and we shut the world down, and then we rallied hard. This was all in the matter of, what is that date time? I know it's weeks here, but let's take it from the bottom of that rally to back where the price was. It was 4 months it took to get that. So yeah, I think black swans can cause a massive shift in the world economy in no time whatsoever. But it's probably going to take a black swan to do that. If we're waiting for regulatory easements or regulatory stimulation with the Bitcoin Act, etc. Let's just say everything goes swimmingly with the Bitcoin Act and it gets through Congress and the Senate and it gets approved, and I'm spitballing here, after Trump's 100 days in April. Does that mean that April the 2nd, they're going to buy 200,000 Bitcoin? No, it's each year they'll buy up to 200,000. They'll spread that out, I'm certain of it. And so, that's kind of a bit of a slower approach. Just my thought. QE too soon will just lead to hyperinflation. I'm not convinced it's coming this year. I'm no economic expert, he says, standing up here every week for an hour talking about crypto financially. But we just got to be careful. I say we, the royal we. The Fed have obviously got to be careful with how quickly they turn that on. And I hate him saying it, but that's why he always says he'll be data driven. And until we see unemployment, it's still doing very well at the moment, till we see inflation start to come back down. He wants that 2%. 2.9 is pretty good. We've been a little bit lower and it's gone back up, with that sort of, it's because we get closer to that target, the balancing act between those is very tight. So yeah. 43 isn't that the amount of people left in retail? It feels like it. I don't know about you lot. I don't really see that many buy this coin now before it 100x's videos on YouTube anymore. That's not really what I'm seeing. I see more educational content or content about, administrative changes, etc. I'm sure there are the 100x ones out there, but I think people have kind of realized that we're not quite at that point yet. Any thoughts on this delay action turning into an elongated super cycle that bleeds? Yeah, I mean, look, the 4-year cycle has worked perfectly for the last 3 cycles, but 3 times is just luck, isn't it? If it had worked every time for 100 years, then it'd be something that we could really hang our hat on. And I still, until it breaks, then I'll follow it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't work out this time. And that's why I talk about it in times like this, because I still think, I don't think it's definitely going to happen, but there's no, concrete evidence that says that it's broken, because we've seen cycles. You go back to 2017, granted less, look at how quickly that went. Where are we in? So that's March. So from the 13th of Feb to the top of the cycle, so roughly where we are now, it still went up 1,800%. So plenty of time for that to happen, and for this to just be a bit of a see, that was just a little blip. When we take this off the log scale, that looks tiny, that move up, but it was 1,800% back then. So go back to the comment. I can't remember what it was now. Any thoughts on going super cycle? Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if it went that way, but I'm just going to talk about this kind of stuff until we know what's happening. And then, the more we talk about it, we can either dismiss it because new things come found, or it starts to, eat away, and we think actually it's either about preservation or changing how we're going to try and manage this. And that's the way. There's still ways to make money, even if it changes there. Maybe recession first, in your opinion. You see QE more likely in 2026 and 25. Kill the stock market and strengthen the dollar. QE does make sense. I mean, we're almost back at all-time highs on the NAS. So it's had its pullback, which it always does, but still showing some pretty strong strength at the moment. So plenty of people talked about how it's going to fall over and it's going to collapse, and it just keeps on outperforming. I think I'm just going to be data driven by that one. I don't really follow. I do follow the NAS and the S&P, but I don't talk about it much. I'm just going to see how that is, but they are still linked, despite what people say. I hope we get Altseason now. Hey, if we get Altseason now, I mean, if we got it literally right now, I'd be a bit devastated because I've still got quite a bit of USDT now. But yeah, this has been a very drawn out. It's felt challenging. It's felt like it's really taking its time. I would much rather see the 40% rises, the 30% drops, the 40% rises, the 30% drops, than the ranging for God knows how long and then 100% increase, because you just doubt yourself each time when you're waiting for that. But yeah, okay, just a couple of quick ones. Nick, in terms of price targets, do you have any idea on Ondo? The honest answer is no. I don't. I'm liking the strength that Ondo has shown, even now. Whereas, and we're going to talk at Tau, look, Tau on the 4-hour for the last few months, just been in a downtrend. Ondo, not done amazing, but we've just ranged. Yeah, we've managed to sort of hold our own within that range. So it's shown some pretty decent strength there, which, that's all you can expect at this time where we are ranging, where as a whole Bitcoin is outperforming the altcoin market. If you can find an altcoin that's at least managing to keep its price and its position relative to Bitcoin over that period, then it's just as worthwhile as being in USDT, but without the risk. Where can it go? It just depends. Real world assets, they sound great, and I'm sure they will be very well utilized. We've talked, Doge, as in not the cryptocurrency, the department. Elon wants the entire, anything that is governmental in the United States to be put on the blockchain. sort of, so tokenizing everything that's there, but also the data being backed up with decentralized ledger technologies and all that kind of stuff. I can really see this taking over. World Liberty Finance have, agreed partnerships with Ondo. So sort of Trump and his team see some sort of a benefit within that. So I think it can be there. Whether or not it actually delivers meaningful products this cycle, which people can utilize, we'll have to wait and see. But it has shown strength. So that's the best I can really say on that one. And in terms of your portfolio, you're still expecting to tweak and change. I will try and keep it as where it is at the moment. This is it right now. So Tau's about 10%, BTC's about 10%, Chainlink, Ondo, USDT at 35% almost, SPX and near. But if I feel that something's not performing now, I'm going to try and take that risk to look to try and change it, sidestep it, move it into something else. That may cost me a little bit sometimes, and maybe a lot of others, but I'm happy to sort of try and take that risk from there. So no guarantees it will always look like this, but I'm fairly happy with what's in there. Obviously, I want to shift out of this USDT when I can. Luke said, can we have a look at Judge something's turning around from a price action point of view, which we will do. So, okay, let us quickly jump into some alts. So we'll start with BitTensor as we do. And like I said, even today, despite Bitcoin being 2% down, BitTensor's up 8%. It's up $31 from today. Actually, from Saturday, it's up $100, 30%. So it's shown some really good strength. And we'll have a look at vectors and EMAs and everything else at the moment. But right now, it does seem to be some sort of W formation there, which, you've got the left side of that W lower, right side slightly higher. Great. Then what's it done? It's burst through the 4 hours. Brilliant. It's also managed to break above the 200 EMA before it started to pull back down. But if we can hold on this 10 EMA, find some strength and make a run up to sort of that 460 level, taking out that last vector candle. And I do think, if it keeps on this trajectory, this is its next bastion of battle, if you will, 460. And we'll have a look at fibs and everything else in a moment. But I think that 800 EMA on the 4 hour tied in with just closing out that vector candle zone, and then also tying in with effectively all of this noise in and around there. But I wouldn't be satisfied at that, because ultimately, and we've seen it plenty of times, and I think that probably the daily is the best at the moment. So just have a look at this. I might even, what have I done there? Let's just, if I can, let's take it all off for now. Ultimately going really back to the basics, we're still in that downtrend. Okay, so whether you want to just, no, I didn't think so. Put it on the logarithmic, okay? So we're still in the downtrend. We've actually also running up on resistance, which it's wick through, so that's fine. But it is just, steps down each time. And that was a step down. And until it breaks above 450 on the close on the daily, which again, talking about that 800 EMA on the 4 hour around about 460, it's going to do the job for us. We can't say that we haven't broken this downtrend. And strong moves like this happen all the time. You go back here, 1st of Jan, 4 or 5 days, 4 days of strong movement started to roll away. And when I put the vector candles on, you're going to see it looks very similar to this price action. Strong move off this bounce bottom here, stalled, fell away. We've had the strong move. I want to see how these candles happen now. Are we going to stall? And if so, repeat history, or are we going to break the trend and make it up? So yeah, let's get rid of all of the drawings. Let's flick these all back on now. Market session is kind of irrelevant, but you can. So look, now we've got sort of the vector counts. You see that this strong move up, they're white. So it wasn't on increased volume. It's just standard volume took it up there, but we ran out of some juice and we fell away. and that's going to happen. And when we go down onto the lower time frames, so the 12 hour, it wasn't the 12 hour. What time frame was it? Don't know why I can't find it now. I mean, okay, on the daily we'll stay with, what can we see with the daily? So when we peaked in December, 6th of December, we've lost it back down. We lost the 50. We came up, okay, we broke through, we couldn't hold it. Broken, 50 rejected us, 50s rejected us. As of right now, 50 rejecting us. So, there's arguments to be made that we haven't really broken the trend yet. And as good as this has been for a move up, maybe there's actually an opportunity to take some profit and look to. And for me, I wouldn't react just now because I want to see that it has rejected. But that's a setup. That's the setup that I've been using these past few weeks, just sidestepping through to be able to take some profit. Now, last couple of times, I foolishly sold my entire position, and it wasn't the best. I've kind of learned from that, and I've just been selling bits of it. But if this continues, then I wouldn't feel bad. And I'm really, as I say, got to see it clear these levels. So 460 is what I'm looking at to give me any sort of hope that we've actually made that recovery. I appreciate there's detail coming out Friday, perhaps, which, a massive fundamental change to BitCenter and its ecosystem. For me, that's a coin flip. It could go either way in terms of reaction to that. So, I mean, is it going to even be a successful launch, etc.? All that kind of stuff just needs to play in. But could this just be a, buy the rumor, sell the news? The event happens, we move away. Unfortunately, that's the kind of balancing act that you need to take with all of that. But you throw that fib on that I always like to do, and lo and behold. So from the top to the bottom of this, what we also running into right now, the 382s bang on the 50 EMA, which we've hit and we've rejected from. So a lot of things just saying, I've liked what I've seen, but I've seen this story repeated a couple of times over the last 2 months. And so until the narrative changes, I'm just going to wait. But strong move thus far from there. Ethereum, I mean, yeah, the side probably says it all. This candle in an uptrend would have been amazing. Look at the size of that wick. But in a downtrend, it's done nothing, absolutely nothing. And we've just seen that we've continued to fall. And we're not seeing any strength in Ethereum in recent times. Since losing the 50, we sort of flirted in and around with it. We've lost it. And now what's happened? We've actually lost the 200 and the 800 on the daily here. I mean, if it closes now, we've lost it. The 50, the 20, the 10 are fanning open. Yes, there are vector candles left above us, but it's a tough one to trade, if I'm being honest. CAS, I mean, today, that's not what you want to see, is it? We're in a downtrend. We've seen potentially a relief rally, and then that 2.5 hours to go. It's not what you want to see from CAS there. I mean, people have been talking about it. I didn't know whether to believe it, but it's kind of hard not to now. I mean, dare we say that this could be a Bart Simpson? And if so, you're looking at 5 cents. I mean, back when we were at 20 cents, these vector candles here, you would have just thought, we left those ones behind. And it does happen, but there's potential with this. And again, I know we've got some fundamental news end of March coming out with their smart contracts, their version of it, with the 10 transactions per second or whatever it is, blocks per second, etc. But until they actually deliver on that, just seeing what I see there, that is not a good candle from today. And so we talk about Tower a lot, recent one. But if you have a look at some of the others, so not this one. If you have a look at likes of Solana, why can't I get rid of that? There we go. And that. So yeah, okay, it's had its pullbacks, but generally it's still in the uptrend, okay? Whereas Ethereum, not only has it had its pullbacks, it's almost back to where we were before the Trump pump. That's how bad the pullbacks have been. Tau, I mean, it is below the Trump pump. There's the Trump pump. In fact, we're battling with that now. CAS, below the Trump pump. That was here. Ondo, above the Trump pump. So again, showing some strength. And potentially, you know, maybe we got a leg for a W formation. We'll have to wait and see with that. Sui, I mean, I know that's looking like a nice candle to short at the moment, but it's resting on that on the daily, the 200 EMA. It's been holding that one up. So maybe it gets a bit squeezed, but still above where we were, showing some sort of strength within that. XRP, we'll laugh at it. Look at that. Looks much stronger in terms of where it is and the price action it's had. You know, that's November. That's the beginning of the Trump pump. Looking pretty darn healthy. Of all the tokens, including BTC, arguably the healthiest. Any others really worth? I mean, near, you know, I'm in. Sold some because I didn't like where it was. Was it $5? Wish I'd sold the rest of it. It was all staking. It's not looking strong, below where we were from the Trump pump. So this is the alt market we talk about, you know, right now. Yeah, it had those amazing rallies in alt season, but when it's not alt season, you know, this is what we're seeing. Polkadot got all the way up to 12 cents. I mean, it's not quite, it is slightly above the Trump pump, but a lot of high tests across the board at the moment from today. So I just think it's just time to, you know, if you're in a position where you feel comfortable to seek those opportunities to, you know, spot trade rather than leverage trade, then you've got to accept that you may get some wrong. But with the way the market is looking, with how Bitcoin dominance is climbing, chances are, unless you just let your emotions and you sell at the bottom of 7 or 8 red candles, chances are you're going to have an opportunity to sell and buy back in at a lower price. And look, I can sit here preaching, but I was quite honest with everyone. I didn't buy Tau at 309. You know, I waited till they got to 360 before I got to those kind of positions. So I'm not telling you that I get the perfect position every time, because no one ever does. And greed will always get the better of you, don't matter who you are. But there are definitely opportunities there. I mean, it's really nearly 20 past 9 already. Let's just have a quick look, see if there's any others. ETH Daily is holding a 50 fib, which is promising. If it breaks below that, no reason it won't retest 210. Let's have a look. 50 fib. Question is, where have you taken it from? I'm not sure where you've taken the fib from to get to 50. I mean, unless you've done... Well, I'm just going to... because everything will be different, logarithmic and that, but the low test, okay. Yeah, I mean, if we did that, held that 50, just about there, didn't it? Yeah, I can see that. But like I say, break of those are retesting it. I mean, I'm just looking from the daily, as I said, on the EMAs. If you break it down to lower time frames, I think there's probably going to be some better look-ins. But even this on the 1 hour, I mean, bought up strong off the back of the news that Liberty Finance will buy in loads. But since then, it's not doing much. I didn't mention it, but it's actually inflationary again, is Ethereum. You know, after 2 years after the merge, we've gone back to being inflationary because they changed the pricing, and so we're not burning as much Ethereum. It's not getting used as much, and so more is just getting printed. But anyway, we'll leave that one where it is. Conscious that I've taken up all of this time. Is anything else really want to talk about? Let's just have a look. I mean, so, you know, Tau BTC making a nice move at the moment. I mean, I know I put on the daily, it's going to still be in a downtrend, but you know, there's still opportunities there. I had some Bitcoin I could have traded. Don't be afraid to have a look at your portfolio in sats and see if there's an opportunity there, because until Bitcoin dominance does break, I'm just drawing lines here. No, that doesn't work. Until Bitcoin dominance does break, there's opportunity to at least try and take advantage of that. And we used to do that in the previous cycles. Gas BTC being the prime trade we used to do all the time just to increase our BTC holdings. And then when BTC dominance broke, swapping it into other altcoins. But for me, this is all well, not all, but I am interested in this. Maybe it rolls over and we see it fall away. Great, alt season, even if it's a minor alt season. But if it finds some level 10, the 20 EMA, and we start to see it bounce back up, then, you know, the rest of these are going to look pretty red. Okay, I think that's enough from me. Apologies with the quality of the stream to start off with. The reset seemed to work quite well. Obviously, there'll be a call on Thursday. There is a cuddle next Friday. Cuddle, you know, one of the social events and catch up. So for any that are coming to that, I'll be there, and it'd be good to catch up with everybody. Always interesting to just hear everybody else's views rather than mine. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Any questions, as always, feel free to tag me, hit me up, DM me, whatever it is. Try and help out where I can, if I can. Apologies if I come off bearish. I am conscious, and I don't mean to be. It is only from a short term, but there is opportunity to increase your portfolio holdings in bearish times, or to make money, however you want to have a look at it. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Have a good night, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers now.